Hello, welcome back to the Boardgames4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. In this video we're going to be talking about a very sort of simple card game. We're going to be talking about Viceroy, and in this game you will be selecting cards from a display, paying some dosh to place them in your pyramid of power that will give you rewards, that will give you victory points, that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules, telling you what we do like, what we don't like, then we'll come back, we'll tell you whether or not Viceroy is still worth playing several years after it was first released. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this. Boardgames4K. So, Viceroy, how'd you play this game? So Viceroy consists of two phases. You've got the first phase, funny old thing, and this is the auction phase. You'll have the second phase, which is the development phase. So when you set the game up, you'll notice there's two types of cards in this game. You've got the character cards, and then you've got the lore cards. And what you do, you separate these cards into two parts, right? So what you do, first of all, you place the 4 action cards out onto the middle of the table, and you'll deal a certain number of cards to each player. And what they'll do, they'll select 2, dump 2, and then they'll select from those 2 one card to place in their hand and one card to place as the starting card in their pyramid of power. God, I love that term, don't you? So each player will also be granted a certain number of lore cards, and what this does, you'll be able to play these on your turn, and these sort of change the game up quite radically. They're all quite powerful. If you think of sort of Cosmic Encounter, like the alien special ability, they're kind of like that. They're sort of a game-breaking mechanism in this game. So once everyone's got all their cards and sorted their head out, then what you do, you move on to the auction phase. What everyone's going to do, they're going to get a certain number of gem tokens, and you'll randomly remove 2 gems from your starting supply, right? What you do, you draw a certain number of cards from the character deck, and you'll align them with each auction card. And you'll see that on each auction card there is a gem. What you'll do, you'll be bidding on the cards that are above or below the auction cards. So you'll look at the colour of the gem on the auction card, not on the character card. You'll take a gem from behind your screen that corresponds to the same colour. You put it in your hand, and you'll do the old rock, paper, scissors thing that is in every other bleeding game under the sun. Everybody will reveal their gem, and then if you're the only person to have bid that gem, you'll be able to take that character card. If there's a tie, then you'll have to discard the token that's in your hand, and then you'll go again. If there's another tie, then you will go again, and if it's still a tie, you ain't gonna get bugger all. So once everybody's either got a card or they've screwed up their turn and not got nothing, then you'll move on to the development phase. This is where you'll be taking the cards from your hand, either the one that you started with or the ones that you've acquired through the auction phase, and you'll be playing them into your pyramid of power. So if you look at the character cards, you will see that there is a row of gems on the left hand side, and then there's a reward still on the left hand side, but on the right hand side of the gems on the left hand side. Right, so what you do, you'll look at the level of the pyramid that this character has been placed on. So you'll start off with a bottom row, which can be an infinite number of cards, and then you'll go to the second row, which is going to be 4 cards, and then you'll go up to 3 cards, 2 cards, 1 card, right? So if you're on the bottom row of the pyramid, you'll look at the first gem. If you're on the second row, you'll look at the second gem, and so on and so forth. You've got to remember though, if you bid on a higher level than the lowest one, you're going to have to pay gems for each of the other levels that are below the level that you're on. Right? I know, it's confusing. So you'll pay the gems into the bank, the supply, whatever you want to call it, and then you'll take the reward that is to the other side of it, right? Let's go through some of the rewards, because if I don't tell you, you ain't going to know, are you? So you might be able to get some gemstones, and this means that the player takes the indicated number of gemstones from the reserve. If there's not enough gemstones in the reserve, the player takes as many as they can, right? So the next one is the power points. The player places the power point token in the indicated value on the card. At the end of the game, these points will be added to the player's total. Or you might be able to get the reward where you take cards from the small deck or the lore deck. That sounds nice, doesn't it? It's a nice little ring to that. I'll be singing that all day now. The player draws the indicated number of cards from the lore deck or the small deck. A small deck is the deck of cards that were sort of left over when you dealt out the original character cards, but don't worry about it, it don't matter. If the player is supposed to draw 2 cards, and they can draw both from the same deck or 1 from each. This is a good way to get extra character cards into your hand on a cheap, or get some of them tasty little lore cards that we'll talk about in a bit into your hand, right? So you've got science, magic, defense, and attack, and this is to do with set collection, which we'll talk about when we go into final scoring. And there's also, the only different thing is the attack token, which again we'll talk about when we're looking at final scoring, right? So there's also bonus tokens that will allow you to place the indicated token on the card. Bonus tokens have no use during the game, but they can give you points during the final score. And there's also the infinite gemstone, where you take the gemstone of the indicated colour from the reserve and you place it on the card. And basically these act as sort of permanent gemstones, so you can reduce the cost of buying character cards and lore cards. Not a mean sunshine. So if you play a character card, you might be able to get hold of the first mate, and some of the rewards that the old first mate gives you, he's not going to give you his pipe or his 6-pack, by the way, but he's going to give you some gemstones, he's going to give you some extra cards, he's going to give you 8 victory points, and he'll also give you a bonus token with a scroll on it. That's really nice, isn't it? Nothing like a good old rummage in a jumble sale. Or you might have the Admiral, he's going to give you a scroll, he might give you a science token, he might give you an attack token of 4 victory points, or he might give you a blue bonus token, and he looks like he's had a few pies, doesn't he, the old Admiral? So if you want to, you can play a lore card, and like we said, these are sort of game-breaking special abilities that the game will offer you, and these are sort of quite powerful. So some of the lore cards that you can chuck into your pyramid of power are, you might have the bureaucracy card, and this means that you can take 4 cards from the top of the small deck and place these cards on top of the large deck without looking at them. The game will now be 1 turn longer. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, if you think the game's shit, then it's going to be a bad thing, isn't it? Or you might have fair trial. At the end of the game, gain 2 victory points for each adjacent character card. Up to 6 cards can be adjacent to this single card. Or you might have the state council, which means that any time you take a lore card, you may put it underneath this card, and at the end of the game, gain 5 victory points for every card underneath this card. This is a fantastic way to get victory points, but obviously on the downside, you're going to be wasting those lore cards to get victory points. So there you go. So you get the idea. You'll keep on bidding on cards. You'll be playing them into your pyramid of power. You'll be trying to mess the game up, mess up your opponent's brains by using lore cards, and you'll keep doing this until the last 4 cards go underneath the auction cards, and then you do a bit of final scoring. You're going to look at how many single coloured circles you've got. You'll look at the cards and you'll see that each one of them's got a segment of a single coloured gem. And if you can match up a whole gem, you'll receive power points equal to the level that they're on. And also, if you can get bonus tokens onto those cards where you get a full gem, then you'll be able to get even more bloody victory points in it. You'll get points for infinite gemstones that we talked about. And again, these are ramped up by the bonus tokens that you're going to have on a card, you know what I mean? You'll get any points that relate to your lore cards that you played into your pyramid. You'll get points for PowerPoint tokens. Makes sense, doesn't it? You'll get points for completed sets of scrolls, right? And you'll get penalty points for attack tokens. So the way this works is that you count how many unused attack tokens your opponents still have at the end of the game, and you lose 4 power points for each such token, right? But these are offset by the amount of defense tokens that you've got behind your screen, right? So it's a good thing to have a little bit of attack, a little bit of defense, a bit like being a football hooligan, isn't it? So what you do, you use the really crappy score pad and you add up all your victory points, and a player with the most victory points and usually the biggest mouth will be the winner of Viceroy. So what do we like about Viceroy? So the first thing that we really like about Viceroy is the artwork is really, really good. Okay, the cards are a little bit flimsy, but the artwork is absolutely fantastic. And you've got the old, what's his, I can't remember his first name. It looks like that Chamberlain geezer who was in that King Solomon's Mines movies out of the 80s that are really, really sort of liked, sort of an antithesis to Indiana Jones, wasn't it? But yeah, the artwork is really fantastic. It's really detailed. There's a definite style to the artwork in this game, and it reminds us sort of like of Libertalia with the different characters. I think there's about 64 cards in this game, so the fact they've actually gone through each of the different characters and actually found 65 different characters in the game is amazing. And yeah, we do like looking at the really good artwork in this one. So the second thing that we really like about Viceroy is the duality of strategy when you're trying to stuff your pyramid full of all the cakes and biscuits, yeah? So do you hang on to cards in your hand so that you can wait until you can slot them in to get those more lucrative rewards, or do you play them into your pyramid of power to get those bonuses and rewards that aren't as lucrative, but get them in there quickly so that you can maybe get some extra cards or some extra lore cards into your hand really quickly, right? And we really do like that. It's also quite fun trying to find a way to fit your cards into your pyramid of power so you can complete those circles and maybe get a couple of bonus tokens onto them. So yeah, we really do like the fact that you've got to decide when to play the card, when's going to be the best time to play the card, because it might be the case that you can't fit that card in straight away, and you might have to get some extra cards in to make the card that you want to fit, but you need to play that card to get the other card into your hand, right? Super. So the third thing that we really like about Viceroy is that they've actually bothered to accommodate people with colour blindness. And okay, the way they've done it isn't ideal. It's still pretty difficult to see the amount of dots that are around each colour. So you could tell what's sort of blue if you count the dots or you look at the symbols on the gems. But the fact that they've actually gone ahead and tried to accommodate colourblind people out of the box rather than leave colourblind people out of it like Sagrada, they've got to be commended for that, haven't they? So the final thing that we really like about Viceroy is the auction contains a little bit of bluffing. The rules do actually encourage people to have a little chat before they stick their fist out. Obviously, you're not going to punch anyone in the face, but maybe you will. When you stick your fist out, you're going to say to somebody, well, I want the card that's in the yellow spot, but so I'll play the yellow if you don't play the blue, and then next round I'll be able to not play a blue so you can get the card that you want, right? And it's like, yeah, all right, then we'll do that. I've played the blue, right? So there's a nice little bit of bluffing in there. It's not too complicated. It's not too hectic. It's not going to cause you to run into the kitchen and get the bread knife. But the fact that the game does actually encourage a little bit of bluffing is super. So what don't we like about Viceroy? So the first thing, and the thing that drove me up freaking wall with this game, is the bloody rulebook is absolutely terrible. It's one of the worst rule books that we've ever come across. The text is so dense, it reminds me of reading the King James Bible on the bog. And the main thing that is terrible about this rule book is it mentions things that haven't been explained yet, right? Like, for example, the auction cards have got an arrow facing down, an arrow facing up, and the game tells you to take any auction cards that haven't been won and place them in the arrows point upwards, right? And it doesn't actually explain to you what the bloody hell they're talking about until you flip the page over and look at the next page, right? So I was sitting there thinking, what the bloody hell are they talking about? What arrows? What are they going on about? There's no indication in the rules as to what they're talking about with regards to the arrows on the cards. And it's not until I flipped over and disregarded that and started reading something else that I bloody well found out what to talk about. So why? Why do these rules mention things that they haven't bloody well explained? It's the same sort of thing in the rule book to the crew. They mention concepts that they haven't explained, and I find myself getting really, really angry, and I just want to punch a small animal. So the next thing that we don't like about Viceroy is that the auction is limited to bidding one gem and one gem only. And I know that's part of the game. Maybe you can have a case where both players are bidding the same. It's like, haha, we're going to round 2. Haha, we're going to round 3. Haha, we're going to round 4. Well, there's no round 4, but we ain't got nothing. But if you could maybe have a law card that would allow you to bid extra gems, it might make the auction mechanism a little bit more exciting. What do you think? So the next thing that we don't like about Viceroy is it's very, very difficult to plan ahead, because you're going to have a maximum of 2 sets of cards on display. You're going to have the ones at the bottom, ones at the top, yeah. So you don't know, unless you're good at card counting, unless you're some sort of poker freak, you're not going to be able to remember or even sort of preempt what cards are going to be coming out of the character card deck, right? So you can really only plan for 2 rounds ahead, and that means you are at the mercy of a random card draw yet again. So the final thing we don't like about Viceroy is that score pads suck. So to summarise, is Viceroy still worth playing several years after it was first released several years ago? So we are going to say yes, we do enjoy this game. We were quite surprised. Apart from the sodding shitty rulebook, this game is actually really, really interesting. It has a decent amount of planning, not too much, obviously 2 or 3 rounds maximum, and then you can take what you got in your hand and execute your strategy by trying to slot your character cards into the pyramid of power in the most efficient manner. Planning is limited by the randomization of the cards, basically you're sort of limited to how the character card deck is shuffled. But the fact you've got the game-breaking lore cards that are all really, really powerful, and also the stackable bonuses that give you a huge cascade of victory points if you can get them on the cards, make this game frustratingly fun in a sense. So we're going to give Viceroy 4 out of 5. Go and get yourself a player aid instead of reading the nightmare of a rule book. I'm absolutely positive that you will enjoy this game as much as we did. So there you go, that's Viceroy. Remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you next Tuesday.